Hey guys and gals, Neferu here from Drake Wing Gaming. Some of you know me on Twitter, The Gaming Drag. Today I'm coming back at you another Let's Play episode of Adastra. The crying game, apparently. So yeah, let's go ahead and just jump right back into it. Oh god, I was looking on YouTube at some of the thumbnails that people have used in their Adastra videos, and I am so worried. Whoa, god. This game is gonna be pain, I know it. Alright, anyway, y'all, let's go ahead and just jump right back in, shall we? Please sit back and enjoy for the next 18 minutes to entertain you. Let's jump right in. Alarm chain, you are up, and let's go. Lord, has it really been that long since we played Adastra? Really? December 10th? Wow. Okay. Alright. It has been taken care of. How? Again, son of the Pharaoh. I sit in silence for a while, trying to comprehend all this while still worrying about Amicus. Can we find out where Amicus is? We will shortly. How? Even if it was supposedly a secret, word spreads fast in these halls. Why are you helping me? This is all so crazy. I've told you before, Kyllian, it is the duty of the Kyllian to help a sapient in distress. I stare at the jackal. Uh-huh, and why else? Neferu smiles gently at me. Despite our past interactions, I consider Amicus a friend. You are very important to him, and I see it as my duty to keep you safe. And would it be strange that I consider you a friend as well? Friend. Does this have to do with the Alliance? Neferu continues to smile. I suppose there are a few other reasons. Those reasons are pretty easy to figure out. Keeping me protected will keep Amicus happy, and Amicus knowing that Neferu did that will make the Alliance more likely, assuming we get out of this mess. Obviously, Neferu won't say, but knowing this is most likely the main reason actually makes me feel a bit better. I don't have to worry about the Jackal has some other nefarious plan in store for me. Virginia requests access to your quarters, Neferu. Ah, and there might be the answer to your earlier question. Granted, Calm. The door slides open, revealing Virginia. She doesn't look happy. Immediately, she stalks into the room, eyes on me, glaring. I wonder what exactly it is she's waiting for, but then the door slides shut. What in the name of Romanus have you done, alien? Neferu chuckles. Easy, Virginia. He's been through quite a lot in the past hour. Easy? Cassius and Cato are in the hospital. Amicus is in the dungeons. Cassius is to become emperor. Our plans are in ruins, Neferu. Lilith folds her arms and walks around slowly so that she can better look at me. What happened? My first instinct is to stay quiet, cross my eyes in that dull, vacant stare and pretend not to understand. But then I realize I don't have to anymore. I'd come to this realization after the second trial, but now that everything has fallen apart, now that I actually have some protection, I find myself bristling at the she-wolf's accusing stare. Cato's a complete monster. He staged the third trial so that Amicus would lose. I used the Nervo on Cassius and should have done the same to Cato. And Amicus ripped his visor off. Virginia gives me a look of surprise, probably not expecting me to be so honest, or maybe she's just shocked at how brutal things got. She then looks to Neferu, who nods in response. But why? That's when I hesitate, but again, I feel like it doesn't matter much anymore. Amicus made first contact with my species. What? The wolf looks horrified, bringing a paw to her muzzle. Now this is the kind of reaction I'd expect. Why would he do such a thing? I don't know. His research on my planet told him otherwise, I think. Virginia just stares at me, then looks away, toward the door. Honestly, knowing your brother, it's not all that surprising. I know my brother is an idiot. I did not know he's psychotic. Now I really bristle. The idiot thing might be true, might be kind of true, but talking about Amicus like this after everything that's happened, like sitting in the dungeons wherever those are, it makes me angry. Hey, he had no reason to believe we weren't part of the Galaxius. The library or archives or whatever told him that we were, but he just panicked and rushed things when he found out the truth. Neferu and Virginia stare at me, looking unconvinced. I sigh. So, where are the dungeons? Is he okay? Can I see him? Virginia paces around to the side, staring into the fountain. He was stunned by a drone, but he was conscious when he was escorted. The dungeons are under the palace, possibly just under our feet. I look down automatically at the marble floor, picturing the wolf sitting down there. Can I see him? Obviously not. Cato has allowed access only for himself. That authority will pass on to Cassius when he becomes emperor. I continue to stare at the floor. I feel better now that I know that he's at least alive, but I want to see him. I need to see him. So what do we do now? I look up to see that Virginia's talking to Neferu. I'm working on it. This will take time to sort out. And it was all going so well, as it often does before it falls apart. What are you talking about? Virginia glances at me in mild surprise, like she forgot I was there. It does not concern you, Kyllian. You look injured. Why don't you rest? I stand up. Look, I think by now you should know that I'm not some idiot slave for you to order around anymore. It was an act. I understand everything you say, and I know all of you have your own little agendas. I see Virginia bristling, but I just don't care anymore. But honestly, I really don't give a fuck what either of you want. I just want to help Amicus, so if that's the part of this plan you're talking about, then I want to know about it. The two aliens stare at me. Then Neferu starts laughing, but I cut him off. Stop acting like everything's so fucking amusing to you. This isn't funny. Amicus is in trouble, and even though he put me in this mess, he's the only one I know for sure that gives a damn about what happens to me. Thankfully, the jackal stud does stop laughing, regarding me with those blue eyes. You're right, Kyllian. I apologize. I was just not expecting such a powerful retort. I like it. He then turns to Virginia. He's a part of this as much as we are. I believe he should know what we are up to. Virginia sniffs. Granting him Kyllian citizenship seems to have bolstered his boldness. I wonder if that was a mistake. It was necessary. Neferu then turns to me. Kyllian, these plans are meant to be set in motion once Amicus became Emperor. We both have interests in Amicus becoming Emperor. We did not interfere during the trials, but we did plan to begin our work when it was all but confirmed that he would become Emperor. What interests? Well, it may come as no surprise that I wish to have the alliance. Virginia, on the other hand, Neferu glances at her, though if barely seems interested and shrugs her shoulders, to be his chief advisor. In the end, we both agreed that Amicus would be best to fulfill both of our interests as opposed to Cassius. We simply agreed to help each other accomplish these plans of ours. Interests. I guess that's the appropriate word to describe what most relationships hinge on in this stupid empire. Do you even care that your brother is in the dungeons? Asked Virginia directly, surprising myself. Or do you just care about what interests you? Virginia scoffs at me and Neferu gives me what I can only imagine is a warning look. I care deeply about many things. What I don't care for is being lectured by an alien who doesn't understand the meaning of woven legacy. I don't say anything, but Neferu coughs. Anyway, we have plans to work together to see if there might not be a way to redeem Amicus and place him on the throne. Already? Wait, did you already have plans to unseat Cassius if he won? Yes. I shake my head, realizing just how much of a facade this entire empire really is. Well, then I want to help. And what would you be able to do? Well, I never had a problem with Virginia while I was pretending to be a pet. I find talking with her directly to be rather unpleasant. I guess it makes sense that she'd be bitter towards me. I'm technically the reason her brother is in the dungeons, and her chance of being advisor is now 0 under Cassius. Virginia may be right, Kyllian. You're on unstable ground with Cato and Cassius, the two most powerful wolves on the moon. You should probably stay hidden in my quarters for the foreseeable future. I frown. All day? Every day? Yes. I don't like the sound of that at all. Well, you could be useful if the third trial was truly staged. Obviously, your word won't hold much weight, but if we can find footage to go along with it, we might be able to put a dent in Cato and Cassius's image. I look at Virginia, but she's already stalking off toward the door. Unfortunately, I have to attend a meeting in Cato's stead, for obvious reasons. We'll have to discuss all this in depth later. As she reaches out for the black panel, I suddenly have an idea. Virginia? She doesn't say anything, but her ears perk. Could you talk to Cassius when he's Emperor about letting me see Amicus? I just want to make sure he's okay. There's a short pause as the door opens before I see her nod her head. I'll see what can be done. Oh boy, bunch of schemers. With that, she steps out and the door closes behind her. This is like Game of Thrones, but furries. I'm left alone with the jackal. My new, well, not master. I guess more of a partner. He smirks at me. Try not to antagonize her too much in the future. She started it. I recognize that, and it was nice of you to put your foot down not only with her, but with me as well. But she's very, very smart, and it's essential we have her on our side. He's not wrong. I realized just before she left that she's basically my only connection to Cato and Cassius, both of whom I doubt would want to talk to me. Now, the jackal moves to the door himself, calling over his shoulder. Unfortunately, I must also take my leave. I'm going to gather a bit of information from the city. I'll be back toward the end of the day. Again, try to stay inside this room. It's locked to everyone but the Emperor. With that, the jackal leaves the room as well, leaving me alone in the room. I lay back, wondering how things went so wrong so fast. I don't like any of this. Just like my first day on this moon, I felt out of place and completely out of my element. I just wish Amicus were here. I roll over, hugging the pillow as I try to fall asleep. Kid. The idea of me staying in Neferu's room constantly for the foreseeable future doesn't last long. In fact, a few hours later, I find myself leaving his quarters and wandering the halls of the palace like I have so many times before. Cato and Cassius probably won't be back for a little while, so I don't really have anything to be worried about as far as I know. Just as I'm thinking this, I see something out of the corner of my eye. A gray tail, green stripes. Alexios. Seeing the cat suddenly reminds me of all those suspicions I've been keeping bottled up about him, if only to keep the peace in the palace. Again, with all that thrown out the window, I find myself fast walking in Alex's direction, determined to confront him. But I feel like complete shit after what happened. I also feel completely liberated. Cat's out of the bag. I can basically say whatever I want now. Well, mostly, definitely should still be careful. I turn the corner as I'm thinking about this. So I'm thinking this, and find myself standing just a few dozen feet away from the cat. Alex bent over as he waters one of the plants. He's humming again, and he's smiling when he looks up at me. That smile immediately vanishes. He drops his watering can, sending it and contents spilling across the floor with a clanging noise. He basically lost all chance of looking not suspicious in the first second he saw me. Ah! Kyllian, how are you this fine morning? Terrible. What are you doing? Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Are you feeling ill? What happened to your arm? Alex's eyes go to the bandage on my bicep, but I ignore him, taking a step forward. In response, he takes one step back. What have you been up to? Up to? His eyes dart left and right, as if looking for an escape. Telling Neferu about me. Telling Triumvirates about what I told you. I don't know if he actually did that last one, but his reaction seems to tell me. His eyes widen as he backs away. I have no idea. Did you talk to Cato yesterday, after you saw me in the gardens last night? You realize what's happening right now, right? Kyllian, you're scaring me. The cat continues to back away. I follow, and that's when Alex just gives up on his act, turns tail, and sprints down the hall. Before I know it, I'm running after him, eyes focused on his thrashing tail as his sandals slap against the marbled floor. Stop chasing me! I don't know what you want! Don't bother responding, starting to reach out to grab the back of his robe. How the hell are you running as fast as a cat? Just as I make contact, though, he comes to a sudden halt, pressing himself against the wall so that I stumble and slide past him. He's at a door, and he presses his paw to the black panel so that it slides open before he dashes inside. I don't think he was really thinking about where he was going to end up, because I know that that's the bad bathing room, and I know he's trapped. I turn around and run inside after him, just in time to see him, still sprinting, slip dramatically on the wet floor, flying through the air for a moment before landing painfully on the corner of the bath. I hear him wheeze before he plunges into the hot water. If he lost his breath, it's back as he comes back up with a gasp, letting that all out in a scream of pain. Ah! Hot! The cat scrambles out of the water clumsily, scrabbling at the sides with his claws before finally rolling out, looking small and disheveled with his fur all matted up against his skin. He curls up, and to my surprise, I see that he's crying. The sight alone is enough to give me some doubts that Alex is the conniving saboteur I think he might be. He looks so pathetic right now. I stand over him for a bit, looking down at his pitiful form before clearing my throat. You okay? Okay? I think you broke my ribs! Me? You're the one that ran away for no reason. No reason? You advanced upon me in a threatening manner. The cat curls up again and makes some more sobbing noises. And I'm between believing him and believing that he's flat out faking. Sit on the bench. I reach out a hand to help him up, but he swats it away. I narrow my eyes. Answer my questions, Alex. The cat finally sits up, sniffling and rubbing it at his nose, while the other paw clutches at his side. I have no answers. I'm simply a pet. Painfully, Alex gets to his feet before sitting himself gingerly on the bench while stripping off his wet robe. Yeah, and I was simply a pet just yesterday. I'm not as stupid as you think, Alexios. Alex looks up at me, a pathetic, sad look replaced by one that I can't really explain. When he remains quiet, I try again. I know everyone has interests here. What are yours? Maybe we have the same ones. You're not being very subtle, are you? What you did yesterday wasn't subtle at all. Who else would have told Cato that I was conscious again, and that me and Amicus are lovers? Alex frowns and shrugs. How am I supposed to know? I told Cassius last night. He could have told a number of people, especially Cato. That makes me pause. Of course Alex talks to Cassius on a regular basis, probably every night. It would make much more sense that the wolf was the one to tell Cato, rather than Alexios. But what about the lovers thing? You were the only one that suspected. Well, him and Neferu, but I know Neferu wouldn't tell. Alex scoffs, having taken off his robe and in the process of examining his side. Looks fine to me, no blood or anything, but he winces as he prods at it. You think it wasn't obvious? It was a prominent rumor ever since the first trial. That, and I guess Cato did walk in on us in bed together. I feel my resolve failing a bit, but then I remember Neferu again. But Neferu told me that you confessed my intelligence to him. Why would you do that? This time the cat's reaction is rather different, his ears blushing as he looks away. He was curious about you, and he can be persuasive. I'm sorry I told him, but again, I thought it was obvious, and I didn't think he'd tell you. Alex scowls, massaging his ribs. I glare at the cat, wondering if I just made a huge mistake. But what about the triumvirates? I told you first, and then they all suddenly found out somehow. Alex quirks his head. Well, Cassius was discussing it with someone else, wasn't he? Virginia. Maybe it was that person. Neferu said they hadn't interfered at all in the trials, and Virginia didn't show any indication that she might have sabotaged her own brother. But then again, I have the feeling that she's probably a lot better at acting than anyone else here. I know I can't really trust anyone now, except Amicus, and maybe Neferu. I've been so confident just moments ago, and now I find myself really feeling guilty as I watch the sopping wet cat clutch himself, hunched over. I don't trust him to be telling the truth, not at all, but I also don't trust myself in being so confident that he's lying. So shamefully I reach out a hand, resting on his shoulder. He flinches and glares up at me. Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out what's happening. Alex carefully moves my hand off his shoulder, but he doesn't seem all that angry. That's fine, just don't do it in such a brutish manner next time. You frightened me. Yeah, and sorry about your ribs, too, even if you did it to yourself. Alex probably hears a smile creeping into my voice at the end of the sentence because he glares at me again. That really hurt, you know, and now I have to go to the city to see a physician. I'll have to take the awful bumpy carriage, too, since Cassius forbids me from flying. Alexios shakes his head, rubbing my arm awkwardly. Why's that? Alexios looks up at me. Ever since my father's ship crashed and the investigation was botched, he's petrified of it. Botched? Yes, so they don't know how it crashed. Odd thing, isn't it? Yeah. Just when I was having my doubts, I get another flare of suspicion as to why he's telling me something like this, but I brush it aside for now. So you know about everything that's happened? Vaguely, though I'd rather not be involved. Anyway, I suppose it's not so inconvenient for me that I go. I was meaning to visit Cassius in hospital today anyway. The cat stands up, bending down with a grimace to pick up his robes. And I'm sorry about what happened to your wolf. I hope you're able to figure it out. And with that, the cat walks out of the bathing room, his tail dragging limply behind him. I want to say more to him to figure out exactly what he's up to. I might have been wrong about him, but I also don't feel satisfied with his explanations. I can tell now that we're not exactly friends anymore, even before I cause him to shatter his ribs and boil in the hot tub. I sit on the bench for a while, thinking about soaking in the bath. I realize then that the last time I did that was with Amicus, and doing so now, alone, would be way too depressing. I get up and leave, hoping that Virginia took my request seriously. Managing the wolf below me alone is too much to think about, so I head back into the halls, deciding to just go back to Neferu's room and stay there like I'd been told. Oh, God, his room is so frickin' lavish. A few days pass like this. There's a bizarre calm in the air. The palace is quiet despite the absolute chaos that the top echelon of the Empire is in right now. In the meantime, Cassius becomes Emperor with surprisingly little fanfare. I watch it on the screens, the young White Wolf's right leg and left arm in cast, which is explained several times to have happened in the third trial, as he's coordinated by Cato, who is now missing his visor. That isn't explained to the viewers at all. I don't feel much as this happens. Realizing how fake all this is, how it doesn't seem to mean anything despite how much I'm told it means. It's all theatrics. Alright, ladies and gents, I'm going to pause it right here. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell. If a super thanks or a tip if you can, it always helps. Until the next video, I love you all. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye!